membership, affiliation, or connection to any political party in order to secure appointment with the Commission in any capacity commits an offense and is liable on conviction to pay a fine of 5 million naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both. Clause 94. The period of public campaigns by political parties has been extended from 90 days to 150 days before polling day and ends 24 hours prior to the day. Clause 65. The bill confers INEC with the power to review declarations and returns made under questionable circumstances to keep returning officers in check and ensure full compliance with electoral guidelines. Clause 34. The new bill addresses a lacuna in the current electoral law, which was manifest in the 2015 governorship elections in Kogi State, where a candidate died before the result of the election was announced. The bill affords political parties the opportunity to conduct primary elections to replace a candidate who dies after the commencement of polls and before the announcement of final result and declaration of a winner. Clause 51. According to the bill, overvoting occurs when the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the total number of accredited voters in the polling unit. With this new provision, total number of accredited voters will become a determinant factor in the validity of votes in an election. The outdated determination has been exploited by politicians to manipulate electoral outcomes. Clause 47. The bill makes provision for electronic accreditation of voters using the smart card readers or any technological device as may be determined by INEC. Clause 54. The Commission shall take reasonable steps to ensure that persons with disabilities, special needs, and vulnerable persons are assisted at the polling place by the provisions of suitable means of communication, device or sign language, interpretation, or off-site voting in appropriate cases. Clause 3. The bill strengthens the financial independence of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) by ensuring that all funding required for a general election is released not later than 1 year before the next general elections. Clause 50. The bill confers INEC with the power to determine whether election results are transmitted electronically or manually.
However, the National Assembly has passed the harmonized version of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The harmonized version passed by the lawmakers during a plenary is the final agreed version between the Senate and House of Representatives on the amendment to Clause 84 of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which allows direct, indirect, and consensus mode of primaries for political parties.
Good governance is an approach to government that is committed to creating a system founded in justice and peace that protects individuals' human rights and civil liberties. According to the United Nations, good governance is measured by the 8 factors of participation, rule of law, transparency, responsiveness, consensus-oriented, equity and inclusiveness, effectiveness and efficiency, and accountability. It is the duty of every government to promote good governance through the design, formulation, and implementation of policies and programs aimed at enhancing the well-being of the citizenry and promoting stability within the polity. Good governance is characterized by participation, responsiveness, effectiveness, accountability, efficiency, and transparency. Over the decades, there has been a recurrent and sustained argument that the Nigerian state, like its counterparts in Africa and other countries of the developing world, underperforms due to lack of state capacity to deal with the contemporary complexities of governance. The nature of the state's public institutions through which legitimate power is exercised and enforced is gateway to the study of politics in any state. In Akwa Ibom State, the coming to political office as governor of Akwa Ibom State by Mr. Udom Emmanuel saw the introduction of a government that established a relationship between government and the people. He introduced policies that took a radical look at the core needs of the people and pursued them with vigor. That explains the Udom Emmanuel's fixation in ensuring that health facilities in the state are given the needed facelift. To ensure the health of the people, he has renovated, remodeled, re-equipped and restocked 5 general hospitals, while 5 others are ongoing. Also in the health sectors, he has built a world-class isolation center and rescued the multi-specialty hospital from the brinks. The Udom Emmanuel administration has worked with the youth leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders and critical stakeholders in the
Glad to have you back. Yes, this is still Political Spectrum reaching you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. And Francis, quite frankly, governance is an aspect that we really, or Nigerians, should really be concerned about and not be carried away by the euphoria of all that is happening, all the politicking and all the build-up to the 2023 general elections.
Well, if at this point, with all that we have seen in the Nigerian society, any person is still looking at personal interest, religious interest, ethnic interest to decipher which party to follow or who to vote for as the election keeps coming, then I think that person doesn't want the progress of Nigeria. In as much as we are advocating for equity, for justice, for fairness, and in the party system and within the context of governance, it's also very important that we look at the credentials of persons. And then I think at this point, the majority of the responsibility is dependent on us Nigerians. Because at the end of the day, it is we who are going to vote these persons into power. And if we do not take the right decisions, then we're going to get it wrong. And if we get it wrong, we're talking about the next 8 years of trouble.
Well, may it not come through. 8 years of trouble is something that Nigeria is trying to walk away from at this point in time because, quite frankly, in the last 7 years in this country, or perhaps in the last, would I say, not just this administration, 2 years before the end of the former administration of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we saw Nigeria go through a series of bomb blasts and all of that. So add up 2 years to these 7 years. The last 9 years in this country has been a hell of over here, and we don't look forward to many more years of such circumstances. And at this point, it is critical that we look into issues of governance, what Nigerians are looking out for, which leader has the characteristics, the charisma, not just the credentials, which leader among all these aspirants has the willpower, which leader has the courage to actually face and conquer these challenges.
You know, if you're looking at the Nigerian situation and the Nigerian crisis, the Nigerian masses, what we want or what we need at this particular time, it just boils down to few basic things. You're talking about security, and then when you have a leader who handles the issue of security, you have a robust investment. The robust investment will take care of unemployment because there will be job opportunities. Companies will come in and invest in the country, and that will bring the creation of jobs across the different states of the federation. And then walking away from the insecurity issue, you're talking about government being able to not just make policies that engenders businesses to strive, but also implement those policies, because if we do not have the implementation of those policies, then we are not just going to make headway. You move away from policy making and implementation, then you go to the security of the nation. Yes, we have the insecurity, we have the bandits, we have the Boko Haram, we have the Eastern Security Network, the EPOB, and the rest of them. Now, if you're able to handle all of those and then handle the issue of other criminal elements within the community, then you would, to a large extent, address the issue that we are facing in Nigeria. And when you tackle these basic issues, then you take away unemployment. When you take away unemployment, you reduce the number of youths who are lazy, who are jobless, or the number of persons, let me not say youth, because at this time we are looking at persons who are not just youths, persons who are above the age of being called a youth, who do not have a means of livelihood. So it's not just about the youth, but handling those issues will to a long way give Nigeria the peace and stability that is required.
Well, I couldn't agree less with you, but at this point, I feel every Nigerian should be concerned with the party politics, because this is where it all starts. Quite frankly, over time in this country, we have had situations where political parties politic and come out with a person, an individual who flies the flag of the party. And you look at party A, the candidate is not of the image that can handle the country, the situation in the country. You look at party B, the same thing. You look at party C, and your face, yes, the political parties have concluded their primaries. They have flag bearers, but look at all these flag bearers. You don't have the charisma, they do not have the real power. By the assessment of the public, you already know what the next administration will look like, judging from what they come up with at the primaries. And I think this is the point that every Nigerian should be concerned about, rather than just say we're waiting for after the primaries before we align. We're waiting for after the primaries. I believe this is where we have the opportunity to select the best of the best. Because quite frankly, if we let political parties politic and bring out whoever they prefer, I think we would just be faced with the situation of either the river or the shark or the deep blue sea. Okay, the shark or the deep blue sea, or the fry pan or the fire. And either ways, you still get hot. So this is where you get to choose whether you want ice water or you want hot water. This is where you get to choose whether you want fried fish or you want boiled fish. So at that point is where every Nigerian should be concerned on who flies the flag of every political party, both the major political parties and all the other ones that are not well known to the public at the moment.
Well, the argument is still going to go back and forth. I mean, we are talking about us being able to choose good candidates for the different parties that we have. Don't forget that Nigerians are still the ones who are in this party. So I think the message at this point should shift away from, politicizing to having the general interest of the Nigerian person at heart. Look past what you as a party faithful, as a party person, is going to gain from supporting a particular candidate to what the Nigerian people are going to gain should that candidate you are supporting emerges as your party's flag bearer. Because it is only in doing that that we will be able to have across board persons who would, when compared together, would be able to match and compete favorably. But without that, without us taking that responsibility as Nigerians to say, okay, you know what, I have had enough of being bought over. I've had enough of just having to support a political leader or a politician just because I have earned or benefited one way or the other from him or from his close allies, and I want to, keep that benefit going or increasing as the days progresses, to looking at having the right candidate represent your party, the right candidate who is not just going to benefit your pocket, but will benefit not just the persons within your party, but who would emerge and take everybody along. Because after
take
election,
Nigeria out of economic crisis. Someone who would take Akwa Ibom and every state within the shores of this nation out of each problem, each social problems, security problems, economic problems, unemployment problems, ASU problems. Look at someone who has the willpower that can do that. Because at this point, you would agree that ever since it became constitutional to use the consensus method of candidacy, political parties have resort to that. And you have the people, the key policy makers, come up, maybe 1, 2, 3%, okay, cripple your camp, let's have a consensus. And then you just pick someone who you may not know by what conditions the person is being picked to emerge, or by what purpose the party has given him, what agenda the party has given him to propagate, or whether it's of public important, or whether it's something that will reflect the generality, the interest of the general public, nobody actually can say at this point, but we just hear, okay, we have a consensus candidate, and that candidate is presented to the entire public. Okay, this is the person that our party XYZ have produced, and this is the person everybody should vote for, and no one is asking any question. I know it's a delegate election, so delegates would have to use their delegate power wisely and go beyond the party and go beyond it. Whatever money you make at this point, I'm not sure if money is always satisfactory enough, because to a large extent, what I know is human needs are insatiable. Okay, you get 100 million today to support someone that you are not convinced has the willpower, someone you're not convinced has even the credential or has the capacity to even man that office, and you get your money and you stay. That money will finish. Before 8 years, it will finish, and then reality will dawn on you. So this is the time every delegate will have to use their voting strength wisely to ensure that all political parties bring forth candidates that are worth voting for.
And yes, candidates that are worth voting for. Don't forget that immediately after the electioneering period, immediately after election, it is time for the real deal. And that is telling us that you are going to deliver, and what you had promised to deliver, you're actually, you know, rolling out plans, rolling out modalities to implement them and deliver it to the Nigerian people. But then I think aspirants at this point should also know that, like you said, human needs are insatiable and nothing lasts forever. So if you're getting a billionaire for today, chances are you might expend or be able to use, you might not even utilize that money to do anything tangible for yourself. And probably you might be hoping that since you supported the person and voted the person into power, I mean, the milk is still going to keep coming.
I'm telling you.
Unfortunately, we are already used to the antics within the political system where one gets voted into power and then forgets everybody who were part of the supporting system when he or she was campaigning for elections. So at this point in time, it is very critical, very, very critical that we take our hearts, take our minds, take our spirit, and connect all of these senses into making the right decision.
Yes.
If we don't do it, if we don't save Nigeria, nobody's going to save Nigeria for us. And that time is the youth. I mean, there is no better time other than now that we have the political will to say, okay, we have seen enough. We've had enough of eating rice and eating chicken and collecting wrappers and wearing T-shirts and polos and selling out our franchise to persons who don't care about us at the end of the day. It is time that we show this support to persons who would care about us at the end of the day.
Well, quite frankly, Francis, I must say, because the consensus provision of political parties to bring up as candidates, it's quite lofty, because to a large extent it works for a lot of political parties when it comes to, you know, resolving conflict. But there is another angle to it which actually might mar governance in the near future. If you have, say, like 10 aspirants who are coming and you want them to merge camps to bring out a consensus, yes, they will. But what's on the table for them? They have already invested, perhaps they have already purchased the interest form, and they've paid money, and they've run consultations, and they need money. And the chances that whichever party might come up with a consensus will have issues of abandoned contracts when contracts are awarded to these individuals as settlements. You know, I mean, they were part of the political politicking during primaries, and they had to merge camps to bring you forth, so you have to settle them. So contracts will be awarded and roads abandoned for a whole tenure of 8 years, and the masses will be left to suffer. So I feel perhaps for the political parties to still consider other options of the direct and indirect primaries, where every aspirant is given a fair chance. Of course.
Well, that could actually work, but to address the issue of having contracts awarded to politicians for stepping down or giving way for another person to actually emerge, I think those contracts have been within the time frame given to the different politicians, also has the factor in of enough for them to make as gains. If you follow the way contracts are being awarded in this country, you could have XYZ going for 10 million naira, 10 billion, for instance, but that's like the actual sum of the contract worth. But then when the contracts are given, you have an extension of in excess of what the contract actually requires. So that is enough for persons to actually
in as much as that is so, you will still see abandoned contracts.
So it goes down to their selfish ends to say, okay, you know, I've expended enough, so I have to take everything without necessarily doing the job.
Human nature is insatiable, and there's not much what you can do with money, well, especially when politics is concerned. But that is much we can take on this edition of the show. Thank you very much for being a part of the show, and we apologize for not being able to connect with our guest who was at the other end waiting. We're sure know that you have a full show tomorrow. So let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Otto Basito.
And
Bye
I
for now.
am Francis Edet. It's been nice talking to you.
In every election, voters and civic education are necessary to ensure that all constituents, men and women, understand their rights, their political system, the contests they are being asked to decide upon, and how and where to vote. For an election to be successful and democratic,